You are listening to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where illumination and inspiration is but a click away. With so many genre topics for you on everything that you need to know in life. We celebrate and share the people who have taken the journey before you and who are now here to serve you with their wisdom and their knowledge. The next show coming up is... Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Their Story Matters right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sara Troy, and my guest is Phyllis Aymanh. Elderly, mature, aged, it doesn't matter what you want to call of it. If we're lucky, we're all going to get there. We're all going to get to a point where we gather the years. It means we gather the wisdom and we gather the opportunities and we see things like we've never seen them before, because this age group, and I'm very close to the 65, we're not going down as easily as past generations. We're still fighting, but also we're also seeing so many other diseases and complications and problems, and with the numbers going to come up with Phyllis in a moment of how many baby boomers there are just in America alone and around the world. Well, we have to address what is going to happen to us as we age, and is the world prepared for it? And what do we need to do to get prepared? If you have somebody that's aging, how do you prepare for them? It's not just send them off to a home and go, phew, that's out of my hands. No. What do we do? I would love to go like the Golden Girls, 4 of us in a house, somebody coming to take care of us, and go out laughing. But what are the obstacles that we face? Because never, ever in the history of time have we seen so many people reach this age and literally go into the 90s and the hundreds. We've not seen this before. So are we prepared? I don't think so, Phyllis, are we?
No, we absolutely are not. Thank you so much, Sara, for having me. I'm thrilled to be able to have this opportunity to have this discussion.
Well, this is your forte. This is your platform, and I know you're very passionate about it, and I'm very glad we're doing this show. But let's show the significance of what we're dealing with here. How many baby boomers are in North America alone?
Yeah, 100 million. That is a huge number. And actually, the U.S. Census says that by the year 2035, those 65 and over will outnumber those 18 and under.
Yes,
so,
yes.
The population is going to be, weighted on the older side. And as you say, are we prepared? I would say no, from many different points of view. I come from a skilled nursing facility space. I'll tell the viewers a little bit about myself.
Yes, please.
And listener, I should say. So I'm a speech pathologist by profession, and I'm also a certified dementia practitioner. And I've worked in over 40 skilled nursing facilities as a speech pathologist. I've been involved in clinical development, but I've always advocated for better quality of care, better quality of life, for those who are living, and I use that word,
breathing, maybe not living, breathing.
Right. Well, and that's the problem. That's the issue that I have, because, what I am trying to get people to think about in terms of people that are older who can no longer live on their own. And that happens because, as you say, people become more frail, they become more infirm as they get older. It's like a car. A car breaks down at 100,000 miles, and our bodies start to break down at a certain point. I mean, it's just fact, right?
Yes.
And so what I try to tell people is that if we can think that this is just geography, that instead of living in their home, they now have to move into a nursing kind of home because they need nursing care, then maybe, hopefully, that care will start to improve if people start to think of it as just geography instead of, they're put there to live out their last days or to spend their last days. There are so many.
It's the horror stories, though, that you get to do. I mean, I've done shows before on nursing homes, and I live here temporarily right now in an apartment with somebody who's turning 86 this weekend, and she still drives, she still works, she's got more energy than I have, but where the evidence is showing a short-term memory loss.
Right.
forgetting things that she signed, and what did we do a couple of days ago, those type of things. And so kind of I'm filling those gaps in there. I'm being that person. I'm not going to be here forever, and she's determined not to leave her home. And that is a lot of what we're dealing with today too. People, because her mother was in a nursing home and they gave her the wrong medication and killed her. And so she will not
Right.
go there. So, you don't blame people for not wanting to go into nursing homes. But what is the alternative? Or does the nursing home structure have to look at, no, we have to change. We can't just give people medication and dumb them down and hope everyone's going to be quiet.
Correct.
Right? We have to see the system change, don't we?
Yes, we do. And, I have to say there are groups that are involved in systemic advocacy. Just someone from the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care just testified before the Senate the other day. And all those, those efforts are tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be honest, in every country in the world, the wheels of justice or legislation or whatever that is move very, very slowly.
Yes.
So from my perspective, what does it take? Sometimes it takes the people to advocate, to start to speak up, stand up, speak out, and say, this is not acceptable. So one of the ways that I'm trying to inform that conversation or inspire that conversation, well, I've written 2 books. Mm-hmm. The second one is Overdue Quality Care for Elder Citizens. But what I want to do is have people, consult with people like me who provide information from an inside perspective. I'm not just an elder care manager. Because I've worked inside these buildings, I can tell people how the system works and what they should be asking for and demanding. Right. And I feel that the more people do that, along the line, somebody's going to say, oh, I guess we have to do that.
Yeah, well, you're putting it under the microscope, aren't you? And that's the thing. We haven't shed light in it. There's been no spotlight on it except for occasional stories. But if everybody who goes in there, instead of just depositing their family members, literally go through the scrutiny. I want to see every square inch. I want to know everything you're doing. I want to spot check. I want to put a baby camera in the room. All of that.
Exactly. In order to do that, though, you have to have the information. I tell people, I could ask anybody what 2 + 2 is. Some people say, ask that question. But if you told me 5 and I didn't know better, I would say, okay, well, maybe sounds reasonable. So, there are places people can go to download questions or some information, but they don't really have the nuts and bolts of what's behind that information. No. So I provide that valuable information. We were just talking before this show. Everybody is touched by this. I also do seminars on caregiving and communication and empathy and all of that kind of thing. And when I do seminars on caregiving, I always start with questions. Who here has an aging parent or loved one they're caring for? Who knows somebody? Who has one who lives a distance away that you think has care needs? Whatever. By the time I'm finished with those questions, it doesn't matter if there are 20 people in the audience, 50 or whatever number, everybody's hand is raised.
Right.
So when they look around, it doesn't matter where you're from, what language you speak, how old you are, where you went to school, because everybody has had parents.
It's a common concern. It's a common
concern. So the other day I was telling you this story. I have a friend, and we were talking about healthy living. I actually ballroom dance. So he happened to be a former dance teacher of mine, and I was taking lessons from him for about 2.5 years. He's close to my age. And I was texting him. I was visiting someplace, and I saw something, so I was texting him. And he texted me, oh, by the way, my mother is 92. My mother's had a stroke, and she's in a nursing home. And I was like, well, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you ask me anything? You know about my books. I mean, we were together all this time, and his mother is, she has issues, medical issues. So what did he say to me? Well, I got this call and I heard she had a stroke, and I was working and I was going back and forth. And the next thing I know, she was in a short-term rehabilitation unit in a facility. So he said, if I need help, I'll call you. I said, okay. 2 days later, the phone rang. I need help. They don't take our insurance. What about this? They said she has to go someplace else. I don't know where to go. What should I ask? So I try to tell people plan by choice, not by
Yes.
crisis,
Right.
because that situation will occur. It
Mm-hmm.
will happen. And don't wait for that. We do plan for things. People say, well, it's a little unpleasant, but you buy burial insurance or
Right.
funeral arrangement,
Yes.
car insurance, but you don't anticipate being in an accident, or medical insurance. This is very, very important information. This is care for your life and for your loved one. And like you say, it's our future selves.
Right. Well, the thing is this is if you're the kid, and we were talking about dementia before, and I really want to have you back on with Dan Perkinson, who he works with what about the caregivers, how the caregivers are burnt out, etc. And the other one, he wrote a book of Why Doesn't Gammy Know Me Anymore, on dementia, because grandma doesn't know me anymore, right? And what's going on, how to
Correct.
tell your children. And I think the two of you will be a dynamo show. But the thing is that people, as you say, don't want to talk about it. No, I don't want to talk about it. It's my ex-husband is Chinese, and his family would not do a will because that meant that you were inviting death. Some old cultures there. But today we're looking at the aged population. We're also looking at people developing peculiar diseases. Some of them we kind of can do marvelous things with, and then we have other things that are chronic diseases that are something that are with people for life. I'm one of those people. So I know that as life goes on, there's certain areas I'm going to be challenged in. Am I going to wait for that? Or am I going to prepare for that?
Correct.
Isn't it for the kids to know, okay, when it reaches that stage, Mum, what do you want to do? What are we going to do? Instead of getting to that stage again, oh my God, what are we going to do?
Right. The other thing you say about dementia, which is, people do have to make decisions. I encourage people to sit down. It's not an easy or pleasant discussion, but I did read something a while back where more people, 40% of people are more willing to have conversations about funeral arrangements than taking away their keys, the car keys from their older parent.
Yeah.
So, I tell people, it's not pleasant, but just like with anything else, sit down and have this conversation. Now, here's another scenario. People make promises to people, and there are cultural expectations and religious expectations. And so I had interviewed somebody a while back because I interviewed her on a TV show, actually, and she told me a story where her mom had gotten to a point, her sister was caring for her in another state, and it got to a point where it was very difficult, right? Her cognitive decline was advancing, and she was really struggling. And so her sister said, well, maybe it's time to put Mom in a different kind of living environment, an assisted living or a nursing home. And her sister said, well, I promised Daddy I would never do that, but the father had died 20 years prior.
Right.
So, it was, once her sister kind of gave her permission for that and she allowed herself to do that, it was much better all the way around.
Right. Well, I mean, my family, my mother became bedbound, and it was my brother that was looking after her. And this was in the UK. And as he was looking after it, he didn't get any extended help. So he was doing everything for her. And he had a heart attack. My sister came and found him on the floor. He had a heart attack because of the pressure of it.
Right.
And then she's the bulldozer, she went in and demanded help. So they came in twice a day, help to change the sheets or do this or do that. But he was still the primary caregiver right up to the end. She was petrified of going into a home. She had seen in the hospital bed next to her where the hospital starved this woman to death because she had no family. And for her, that's what would happen to her. And she's allergic to certain medications. And in the hospital, they gave her the wrong medication. And my sister caught it because she was there. So you understand where the fear is. And there's also that fear that they have no control. Right. So this is where the system needs to change, is the control has to be, where everybody can ask the questions, can follow everything. The accountability is there, where somebody feels safe, You know, I was talking to
Right.
someone the other day whose father went into the nursing home just because he had physical problems. He was still very cognitive. And next thing you know, he's in a depression and commits suicide. You know, and so
Right.
you hear the stories and you understand why. So the system needs to change. And as you say, the only way it's going to change is if we all demand change. That's the same across the board, no matter what topic we're talking about, right? We've got to
Correct.
be the change.
Correct.
We've got to push it. But with someone like you being able to actually say, okay, these are the areas that are troublesome, ask these questions,
Right.
right?
Right.
This is an area that you know your parent will love to do. Ask them, do they provide it? You know, in the
Right.
case of your friend's 92-year-old mother having a stroke and now she's been kicked out somewhere else, does that a nursing home or old care home, whatever, cater for somebody when they get into a state of needing extended care? What happens to them then?
Right.
Right? We have to prepare for all of this because the price you pay otherwise is too high for the conscious, you know, for the parent and also for the kid.
And I think, and also what's important for people to remember, as with dementia or any other situation, it's not going to stay the way it is.
No,
So
no.
even if you assume this responsibility at one point, you know, that may change as time goes on.
Yes.
Um, you know, obviously cognitive decline is one, Parkinson's is another. You
Right.
know, there are many conditions, you know, that the person's cognitive decline or physical decline is not going to stay where it is when you first agreed to do this or wanted to do it, and you did it out of love or whatever other obligation, but you have to be realistic because, like you say, you don't want to wind up ill, and a lot of people do. They really
Yes.
do. You know, sandwiched in between their
Mm-hmm.
job responsibilities, their
Right.
family
Yep.
responsibilities, and their responsibility to this person that they love and care for and want to do the best for.
And we've got to remember that our kids are working and they're going to be working until God knows what age, or they have children of their own. So to have somebody suddenly come in and live with them that needs more attention,
Correct.
you know, now we're looking
Right.
at a strain going on in the family. So if they choose to do that, which is a nice thing to do, what outside help can you get to help you with that? Because
Right.
ideally we would love to keep people in homes because they're getting more love and attention. They don't feel they've been pushed aside. So, you know,
Correct.
what avenues are there to get people home care coming in to relieve the person, you know, the family?
Right. Well, you know, I know in this country, you know, there are many home care companies. There are areas on aid, you know, the Agency on Aging, and you know, many different cities across the country. There are many places where people could reach out to get help. There's Meals on Wheels. There's many kinds of avenues that you could pursue to get help, and people need to do that. And then there are places like the Alzheimer's Association, which has a support network and, you know, a phone bank where you could call to get advice and get help. You know, all of those things people need to do. Sometimes people are reluctant to ask for help,
Mm,
but it's important for the caregiver and for the person, because we want both people to thrive.
right. I mean,
You know,
we have here in Canada a thing called Handy Dart, which will pick people up from the homes and take them to medical appointments. But you never know when they're coming. You can book them and they're always late. And, you know, and they're
mm,
just that few and far between. So clearly that is something that needs to be fixed. Also, we have it in a way that doctors just don't go to the homes anymore. The entire time
correct.
my mother was sick, and it ended up that they fought afterwards that she actually had stomach cancer and nobody picked it up. Um, that no
Mm,
doctor went to see her. There were just kind of nurses that did the generic thing, and that was it. No doctors went to see her, and
right.
she couldn't go to a thing without ambulance and everything else.
Right.
So, you know, we're going on so much automation that
Yeah.
we're forgetting about the personal care, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. But you know, it's interesting because telemedicine is starting
Mm,
to really take hold in this country. I'm sure it is in other areas around the
mm,
world as well. And this can really address some of those issues where people either can't get out of the house to go to a
mhm.
doctor, or they don't have somebody to accompany them, or, you know, sometimes change of environment can be troublesome to people, or they're too frail to go, but that doesn't mean they have to go to a hospital.
Right.
So this is where, telemedicine is starting to become an area that can address those situations.
Right.
You
So
have
to a point, then the doctor can assess, no, this needs more. You need to
correct.
either come in or go to the hospital, but no, this is fine. Just do this and do that. So it's a bridge gap.
Yes, absolutely. And I was talking to somebody from a telehealth company, and I was saying, it could actually, people say, well, a medical appointment via Zoom or a computer, whatever it
Yep.
is, right? And I said, well, I could see a very favorable side to this, in that, when you go to a doctor's office, I don't know how it is where you are in Canada or how it was in the UK, but very often they're not paying 100% attention. They have to turn around and do their notes at the same
Yep.
time because they want to save time, and it's all about billing and all of
5 minutes per
productivity.
person, and out you go. Right? Yes. Yeah.
Right. So, but you cannot do that if you're having an exchange with somebody via telehealth,
Yeah.
a telehealth call. You really have to be focused and paying attention to that person. And so I said, maybe there could be a side benefit that people haven't really talked about, which is that you really have to be focused one-on-one with that person.
Here's another thing. How about retiree doctors? They're no longer in practice, but they could be doing the telephone practice, right?
They could certainly, absolutely.
Maternity mothers and things like that are taking time off. I mean, it opens up a whole other industry, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And, to tell you the truth, I've thought many times there are so many people who are in nursing homes who have no family for whatever reason, there are a variety of reasons. Wouldn't it be great to start some kind of movement where, older people or people who are living longer and people need to feel useful.
Yes.
They need to feel that they're doing something. Wouldn't it be great to create some kind of program where people like adopt a person in a nursing home or adopt a nursing home and go visit people? I don't know, a week or whatever. I'm just actually thinking about a way to do that.
There has to be,
that.
we have to kind of get with the times. We
Right.
have this technology, and there's a fabulous little YouTube or a picture on Facebook where you have a little kid on no, grandma, that's the off button, and we look at kids today who just go what? But there was a wonderful program where they took kids and had them teach elderly how to use the computers and use Skype and be able to Skype each other, Skype old friends
and
family and even, build up a community of Skype. I'll meet you on Skype at such a time for people that, maybe even another home. The thing is, why aren't we using technology here? It's automating and taking over everything else. Why are we not integrating it into the care system?
I agree. And so, there is an aspect of technology that's helpful for people who are staying in home and for their families to feel more comfortable because maybe they can watch them through different devices or remind them to take their medication or make their lunch or whatever it is.
Yes.
But I did actually a show a couple of weeks ago, and the gal was saying, which I actually came up with another idea from this too. I'm trying to figure out a way to pursue it. Through a nonprofit, where they brought her father, I think it was in a nursing home, and so what they did is they brought him a tablet, and on Sundays they set up the tablet between him and their family, and they had the same food. They delivered the food to him, and so they shared their meal, and so. Isn't that terrific?
Yes. No, there's actually been a commercial on that. We're having it with people with, the veterans, the armed forces, or other people that are far away, or the kids at college, having the Sunday meal with the family. And that's the thing is, okay, no, you're not actually physically there, but this is the next best step.
Absolutely.
Where you're interactive. Because it's another thing we need to hit on, though, with mature people, elderly, whatever we want to call them, because, you know, we don't want to go out and go, we're old. No, we're not. We're fighting
Right.
spirits, right? We're going to keep
Right.
going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
I actually object to that word old, but I will
yes,
get to
no,
that.
no, no. After our conversation, I'm forbidding anyone to say old, you know, mature, like a good Bodo,
That's
you know?
right. The wisdom years.
Exactly, exactly. You know, we worked hard for it, right? So,
Yes,
you
we
know, don't
did.
dismiss us yet. But where was my train of thought going?
Oh, I'm
Lost it for a moment. That's
sorry.
okay. I'll come back in a second. But yes, hang on. Let's see if I can pull the thread back. You see, this is part of the old memory thing going here, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. That
Right.
actually is a point, using it. Now,
Right.
we're actually dealing with depression like never before. And some of it's
Correct.
environmental, you know, some of it's chemical. A great deal of it, I feel, is detachment. You know, where people are not feeling attached, they're feeling like nobody cares anymore, nobody hears them, and there is that disconnect. And whether a person's in a home or they're still living alone, I did a piece on loneliness, and there was the most beautiful YouTube out of England, where, you know, a woman who just sat by her window all the time. That was the only interaction she had with anyone, you know, never spoke to
Right.
anybody or anything. And there, where we really need to understand that it's like diagnosis. I've known 3 people in the last 11 months that got given a diagnosis of either heart or cancer and died of it within a week. They didn't die of the disease.
Wow.
They died of the diagnosis. And people die of loneliness, or they get
Yes.
into a depression because of loneliness. And if we put people together with a common goal, a common cause, a common interest, whether it's through the internet or physically, giving them a purpose. What we're doing is telling them we still care. They're still valid. They're still contributing to life, but also we're giving them a reason to continue to live. So it's really, really
Correct.
important that that form of interaction on whatever scale still need be there.
Well, you know, one of the hallmarks of nursing home existence also is loneliness
Yeah,
and depression.
yeah,
And to me, you know, it's such an oxymoron in a way, a
mm.
contradiction in terms, because a person may go from, let's say, their home situation, let's say
Yes,
they weren't with their family, but a home situation where they were alone and needed more care, and they move into this nursing home situation, and they're surrounded by people, but they're alone. You know,
yes,
some of them have nobody to talk to them, nobody interacts with them, not everybody, but sometimes, and even so, it's not on a level of interest that they have.
right,
And so, you know, you see people in nursing homes. I'm sure it's not much different in Canada than it is in the United States. You know, people think of what is that life like? There are people sitting kind of like, you know, in wheelchairs, gazing, you know, aimlessly out a window or into space with little interaction. And it shouldn't be this way. You know, I say we're advancing in years, we're continuing
mm,
life's journey, and you can have purpose. It's just a different kind of purpose, a different
right,
kind of contribution.
yes.
That's all it is.
So
And
it's at a different volume,
correct,
right? You know, that's
absolutely,
all. You know, different frequency, different volume, but it's still valid. And that's the thing. I think, you know,
absolutely,
we're living in a society today that is so disposable. I've done a
correct.
number of shows on climate change, and you know, one of the problems with climate change is that we were taught in the last 40 years that more is more, that we need more to be happy.
Right,
You know, the house, the car, the clothes, the this, the that, that go out and buy, it will make you feel better. And of course, people are emptier now than they've ever been
correct,
before, right? So we're dealing with that, you know, where things do not make you happy. They perk you up for a moment and then they find out, well, I'm still empty inside. So that's a whole nother
right,
subject. But in that opulence, we have become filled with entitlement at the expense of planet and the expense of people. And we've become a
correct.
disposable society. We don't look at renewing or, you know, rewinding or refurnishing. We look at just replacing. And we've got to realize that,
Correct.
you know, life isn't, you know, you can't replace your parents or your grandparents. Uh, you know, this isn't just put them like, do you remember the movie Soylent Green?
Oh my God, you know, it's so funny that you say that. You know how many times I've referred that movie to people and asked them the very same question? And of course, you know, younger people may not know the movie,
No,
but
I
they
suggest you
say,
go and
oh,
watch
yes,
it.
I do. I say, well, just think about that.
Yep.
I'm just saying. That's
Yes.
all I say. I'm just saying, just give that some thought, because like, as I said earlier, when a car reaches a certain point, what do? We get rid of it. It's a jalopy. It's junk.
Yes.
We can't fix it anymore. And I think that mentality, that way of thinking, people apply that to people. They're
Yes.
older. They can't contribute to the job market anymore. What purpose do they have? In actuality, if we could really think of older people as really the wisdom keepers. I'm starting a blog. I've been saying this for 2 weeks. I have the article written. I'm just having some website issues, so I can't get it up just yet. But and it's called the Wisdom Keepers, because really these people really are the repositories of experience and wisdom that can be passed on. Yes, you can push a button on a search engine and get information, but you're not going to get the richness of the experience or the advice that comes with having lived that.
Right. Yeah, that it reminds me of two things. My shows are put under the title of The Orchard of Wisdom, ready for clicking.
Oh, I love that.
Because we have over 2,400 shows here. That is 2,400, hours plus of knowledge coming from people who've taken the journey, and with all that information are now willing to impart it to you. What a gift, right? What a gift. So stop dismissing them, start listening to them. But there was also an Outer Limits show on many years ago, and it was everybody had a chip in their head, and they just to the computer, computer did this, computer that, and they never had to think, they never had to retain anything. There was one guy where a chip didn't work in his head, so he read and he wrote, and everybody thought he was the moron. Moral of the story is, computer broke down, people didn't have the chip in their head, they didn't know which way was up, and he became the teacher. Well, Google, Siri, what are we doing right now?
Right, exactly. That was an Outer Limits, you said?
An Outer Limits show. An Outer Limits show.
I have to look into that, because that's terrific.
Yes.
But I like what you said earlier about being what did you say, a senses coach? Is that what you said, that you're a senses coach or something like that?
The Orchard of Wisdom?
No, before that, much earlier when we were talking. And it goes to that very thing that, people need to input from all the senses.
Yes. I'm a knowingness coach, which means that you actually have to engage your soul, your heart, your spirit, intellect. And when it ignites with the soul, that's your divine presence. It goes to your heart in resonance. It lifts your spirit into action for your mind to know what it needs to know when it needs to know it.
Oh, I love that.
We've been taught to think everything. And our thoughts then ask another question. Yeah, but what if? Yeah, but then, but when you listen to the soul, to the heart and the spirit, that intellectual truth is there. And then what you need to know from this database up in this head will, apply for you to act on it. So I think we need to start feeling our thoughts. And I think that's a huge one. Let's talk about. We've, again, going back to the disposable human beings, which a lot of people do. Oh, my parents are too old, just throw them in a home. The disposableness. But if we actually learn to feel life, we wouldn't feel so disconnected from life. We would actually understand what the love of life is, what's really important in life. And we would actually keep ourselves and those around us alive longer, because we're feeling it. We've forgotten how to feel, haven't we?
Yes, absolutely. And, that goes along with connections. And I talk about communication and empathy and how we relate to each other, because we're all, when I said in the, earlier about everybody's kind of in the same situation because they have parents, and we're really talking about our future selves and all of that. If we can open our hearts, and I do talk our hearts and our minds and our ears and our eyes, and relate to one another as if we're understanding, because it's the human condition, then I believe that we will do better and want to do better for each and every person. I mean, it may sound, idealistic, but it's really true. Unless we come to that point, it's not going to change.
This is not idealistic. This is necessary. No. Now, I'm going to tell you,
I agree.
Scientifically, it is proven that the bombardment of the earth, the way we're treating, we're 1%, human beings are 1% of species on this planet, yet we are 98% of its destruction.
Correct.
Now, this destruction that we're doing to this planet, which is a gift in our sustainability, a gift in our well-being, is everything you need is right here on this planet for you to live an absolutely beautiful, abundant life. Yet this opulence and this greed and this entitlement as human beings, we have to change that psyche. We not only are damaging the earth, but we're actually splitting the core with this heavy vibration. We actually have to physically resonate up into a higher love vibration, which resonates at a higher 580 hertz, because that
Right.
vibration takes the pressure off the earth. Now, you know,
Right.
scientifically we need to do this. This isn't any woo-woo, la-la, give me advice. Love is the answer, because love is the frequency that will save us.
Correct. I agree 5,000%. Absolutely. And so I want to inspire conversations, just as you are having this radio show. I want to inspire conversations, you know, around that topic, inspire people to think about it this way, to get the information they need so they can demand better care for their loved ones that will, you know, ultimately be themselves. And then in doing so, you know, understand that this is a human dignity issue.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
right issue. This is part of our species, you know, as human beings. This is, you know, what we deserve, you know, having lived our lives and contributed to society and giving birth to the next generation, and some of whom have sacrificed their lives in safety on foreign soil. You know, this is what we should receive, you know, for all of those years.
You know,
so I want to inspire that conversation.
Yeah, and you know, we need to change the system now for the parents and the grandparents right now. But we've also got to address something else. Our children are not having the children that we did. I have 3 kids. I have no grandkids yet. I may have one kid who might have 2. Another one's not going to have any. The other one may have 1. So, and that's all May. Right now I've got grandpuppies and grandcats. That's it. Looking for a 2-legged one. But a lot of them are consciously not having children, you know, and or adopting, or, you know, looking at the 4-legged children as the kids of choice. And so later on, who looks after them? Right? Because traditionally we look at the child turning to look after the parent. Now, if you don't have children, so if you are rectifying a system right now or placing systems in place right now, you have the peace of mind to know that you're going into something later where you're not going to be suddenly, oh my God, I can't manage my life. I don't have any family. What do I do now? So the stitch in time, right? This is something we have to really do. So don't turn your head against it. You may be only 30. You may be looking at 40, 50 years ago, but it takes a long time to change a system. So start it now.
Absolutely. You know, they had that situation in China for many years where people were only allowed to have one child, and they've actually changed that because what did they find? They found that the population was, you know, heavy on the older side.
Right.
And they needed, you know, younger people to continue to grow the country.
Right.
So they've lifted that. I think now it's 2 children. But, you know, this issue is really a global issue. It's not just Canada, the United States.
Nope.
Actually, the United Nations in April of this year had their 10th working session of the open-ended working group on aging. So this is the 10th session. So this is a global issue. You know, there have been many issues about people who were older who didn't receive care. There were issues in France of many people years ago who died in a month where there was terrible heat and their bodies weren't discovered for a month because their families were on vacation. And then there were things in England. I mean, I think is it Jeremy Hunt or I think it's Jared Diamond who called it a national shame.
Yes.
That,
yes.
You know, that, you know, people aren't taking care of the older people, their grandparents. And so this is a global issue that really needs to be addressed. I'm sure there are many countries around the world. I don't know if you have listeners in other countries.
Oh, yes. I'm worldwide. I'm worldwide.
Yes, I'm sure they're dealing with these issues. And I would love people to like contact me. I'd love to have this dialogue, you know, through my website or email. And when we get
which
to
we
that,
would give out, and
yes,
it's
I'll
right here on the
offer that.
posting. There's other things we need to learn, like I think it's Norway and various other countries in Europe where they've started dementia villages or Alzheimer's
Yes,
villages. So the village is protected where people can't leave. They have people there that monitor and look after, but they still have people there that feel they have a dignity and they're still living. Because even with somebody with dementia,
correct,
unless they become violent, which that comes out of fear and feeling trapped, right? But if
correct,
the more the routine is the same, it slows down the dementia, and it still makes it living with it easier, right? The routine being the same.
correct.
So
And
why are we not looking at that type of thing over here? Why are we not, addressing that type of thing where we're looking at maybe Alzheimer's or dementia, or having community pods where,
right,
it is where the help is there, but people still have that independent living, and where they can
right,
contribute maybe on the garden, or they can contribute on this, they're
correct,
still contributing, but they're also being monitored and looked after if they need it.
correct. Actually, I'm in contact with somebody who's, and he's not the only one. There are these small assisted living homes that are being developed, and then there are small assisted livings communities. Many of them are continuums of care, and some of them do have memory care units. But I myself are in conversations with people about trying to create some of these kinds of living situations, like
Mm-hmm.
memory care, like, I don't know if you call it a village or a few homes together, so
Yes.
that people can live with each other. They could live in a kind of a private situation. They could have some individualized care. They could live in more of a normalized situation
Right.
rather than going into a more institutional kind of
Yes.
situation, like,
Yes.
which would be the ideal. But even in England, actually, dementia-friendly communities, I believe, started in England
Mm-hmm.
and has been adopted around the world, I believe. And I
Yes.
think it's a wonderful thing. Here in the United States, there are many cities that are adopting, this dementia-friendly community where everybody is trained, whether it's the fire people or police people or people in the community, post offices or whatever. But I really take that one step further and say, not everybody has dementia. What
Exactly.
about older people
Mm-hmm.
that don't have dementia? Maybe it should just be age friendly, and that doesn't include just older people. What
Right.
about very small children who can't reach a counter or can't do
Yes.
certain things? So if we wrap our head around the idea that it has to be, accessible for everyone, then maybe that conversation will begin to, spread in terms of older people and
Yes.
younger people, and thinking of dignity and respect, on both ends of the spectrum.
And integration. Like I've interviewed a few people who are, who have designed homes where it is about, comprehensive living. You have
Correct.
the elderly people there because they may be, able to help with the children or read stories.
Right.
The younger people can do their shopping for them.
Right.
People with animals. I mean, that's another one today. So many people now are having, dog assistance, for whether it's post-traumatic stress, met one the other day with epilepsy, all sorts of things. And I think actually if somebody with dementia actually had a dog earlier on, and the dog was trained, the dog would be able to know when somebody is being distraught, and be able to bring them back, or, bark, or whatever the case is. I'm sure they can
Right.
be
Right.
used in that way as well.
Right.
Because
Or prevent them from going out the front door or whatever it is.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. And so dogs are just, such loving creatures, and they know how to bond, and they know how to care, and they know how to do all of that, and we're seeing that more and more. But this kind of comprehensive living, where we look at a mature generation and what their contribution is, and it then becomes more of that integration. We're not doing the segregation, and we're looking at the benefits of maturity and the wisdom that they've got there. The young people going to work, knowing maybe the kids after school aren't latchkey kids,
Right.
that there are seniors there to watch over them, that there is a common ground unit where everybody goes to at least
Right.
once a meal a week, where everybody brings a potluck and shares and knows each
Right.
other. We need to do more of that, because if you look at history, um, it was always where everybody was integrated, and we have become such separatists, and it's not working, is it?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And, as families are dispersed,
Mm.
around this country, around the world, it becomes more of a concern
Yes,
because, if we're living, I'm, listen, you're in Canada. I don't know if you have family in the UK.
I do. I'm actually
Oh,
going home in September, for we've all got 3 big birthdays.
okay.
So
So
I'm going home in
there
September for
you
us all
go.
to celebrate our birthdays. But yes, my on my side, my living family is just my brother and sister, and they're older than me,
Right.
and they live in another country. So yes,
And so people, this is distressing for
yes,
people that they worry about their loved ones. And I think it also brings it home a little bit more when you have loved ones that need care. You do start to look at yourself a little bit, but I think there's almost a false security. Like I know this one woman in particular, but I've heard this before. Gee, my mother's 92, doesn't she look like 40? And I think it's great, she
yes,
does. She looks great. And but I don't know what tomorrow will bring. And
right,
because the likelihood, it's like going back to that car analogy.
right.
I mean, your car may be running great at
Yeah.
90,000 miles, but just one day you get in it and all of a sudden the starter doesn't work,
Right.
right?
And the oldest person I've had on here is 86, and the pink lady, exuberance, and at 87 she started her own TV show, but she's always had a person for chutzpah, for life,
Right.
gone out and got life. I love her spirit. And she, although has maybe some medical problems, which is to do more with the maturity of age, has never really had something major that's been, grounding her. But her attitude is absolutely huge. And the amount of people that I interview today that have redirected their lives, they've had their families, divorced, retired, you name it. And it's like, what's left for me
Right.
now? I'm going to take all my knowledge and I'm going to pour it out into something else. And
Correct.
we're seeing so many people, 50s, 60s, 70s, even into the 80s, working because they want to, some because they have to, but it's also
Right.
necessary that they do for the feeling of that interaction and feeling of that purpose. So don't write us
Absolutely.
off. We're here for a long time.
Well, like I said, first of all, I'm 66, and I feel like this is a whole new career.
Hmm.
I stepped out of the space I was working in because I wanted to make a larger impact, a larger
Hmm.
difference. It was just too frustrating working in one facility at a time, and it was like an uphill battle in each one. I said, there has to be a way to make a more global impact. But so I feel like I'm starting this second career. I mean,
Yeah.
writing books, being on, television shows or radio shows or
And your upcoming
wherever I can.
podcast.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Yes, I mentioned that to you, that
Yes, yes. And when is that going to be airing? In September?
uh, in September 9th on Voice America, the Empowerment Channel. And so I'm very excited about that. It was actually, I got to that through a business coach and another show that I was on, and it would just seem to be like it fit, the puzzle
Yes,
fit.
exactly.
So,
Yep.
it just seemed to work. And so that, and we talked in the beginning actually about physicality and
Yes.
being physical. I ballroom dance. I took up ballroom dancing a few years ago. I work out at the gym. I think that all those things are important. If people can, do things they never did before and have a
Yeah.
vitality and vibrancy, and it will keep their mind active and their body active. This is really very important as
Right.
as you continue.
Right. Throw out the manual. The
Correct.
manual that was written before is null and void right now.
Right. It's
You know,
obsolete.
with
Right.
so many baby boomers around the world, with so many people um, in one retirement redirecting into something else,
Correct.
and with so much knowledge being shared and so much creativity and so much more exuberance being grabbed, it's don't write yourself off. I started doing these podcasts at 57. I had no idea what I was doing. The first series I did was live, and I pressed all the wrong buttons on my first show. It was just, absolutely Monty Python skit. Now it's 6 years of my own network, and and the people that I have met And these are people where some of these people have had that cosmic 2x4 majorly. You know,
Right.
have had major things happen into their life, but they were willing to go through the process to discover who they are now, what's their purpose, what's their contribution, and they wouldn't regret a thing. And it's so
Right.
beautiful because it doesn't matter about your age. It does not
Not at
matter.
all. Not
It's your
even one bit.
attitude, your
Correct.
gratitude, and your participation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's also the willingness to step outside of your comfort zone. And, maybe that has to do with personality also and culture and family expectations. But, once you get older, I remember when I was about 40, I had met this woman, and she was about 60 something. She was a little spitfire, this woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to say some of the most outlandish things. I was like shocked, because I met her in a work environment. She said, "You'll see, honey, one day you'll see I've earned this right, and I'm doing things that I never thought I'd do before, and I've earned the right to say what I think and feel what I feel and do what I want to do." And now I understand it,
Yeah.
because now I'm at the point where she was when I met her. So I encourage people. I think actually ballroom dancing has helped give me, I was always outspoken, but in a small way. I
Yes.
think it helped me step out of my comfort zone in a larger way, on a larger scale. So I
Right.
think it could be very beneficial, not only to the person, but society as a whole, to
Right.
take on something that you didn't do before.
I'm just waiting to do podcasting because,
Right.
with this is, I've always been either spiritual coach or a business owner, but always been a coach of some kind because it's just the way I was designed. And then, getting on here and meeting other people who are out there making a difference in the lives of other people because
Right.
they made a difference in their own lives is
Right.
exuberating. And then, people say, "What have you learned from your shows?" It's been the best therapy ever. What I've learned about
Right.
myself, and
Right.
the permission to allow myself to be me
Right.
without the expectation of me having to be what you want me to be.
Correct.
Right?
I'm with you 500%. Absolutely. I think it's great. And I think, as you said, there are more and more people,
Yeah.
men and women who are, I
Yes.
think it's more women than men actually, that are maybe thinking about doing something else at this older age. As you say, maybe because their children are gone, or their spouses are gone, or
Yeah.
their living situation has changed. I think women are maybe more
What's
inclined
next?
to, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What rocking
We're
chair?
feeling
Forget
out
about it,
here.
unless it's
I
on
am
wheels.
I am woman,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so I think it's as we do that for ourselves, as you say, if you do it for yourself, you can do it for others. So as we do it for ourselves, hopefully we will continue to do it for others, because it's not just about younger people speaking out about wanting care for their parents, or older loved ones, but it's about people our age,
Yes.
in their 60s and 70s, who have parents. Many, as I said, my friend, he's in his 60s, his mother's in his 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about younger people, it's about all ages
All
that
age,
are
and it's
right.
a concern for everybody across the board. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
It's oh, they're old, I don't care. Oh, care. Because if you don't do
Right.
something about it now, you're going to be, "Oh, you're old and I don't care," by somebody
Right.
else, right? So, I think the big world, care, please care.
Right.
Have some kindness, have some empathy, have some compassion, and understand that you helping someone else is seeding the ground for you in the future. Do not
Correct.
turn your head away from it, please.
Absolutely. People ask me how I got involved in this, and I tell this story, which is also in my book, that, I didn't know that or think about at the age of 15, I'd be helping to care for my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And, I tell this story. I saw my mother caring for her, traveling to take care of her, and then it was taking its toll on our family. And so we moved her into a nursing home a few blocks from our house, because the way our house was set up didn't seem to be
Yep.
conducive to that. But my mother went every day from early in the morning to late in the evening and cared for her. But there was a period of about 2 weeks when my father and she went on vacation, and my sister and I took over those care responsibilities. I was in high school. I was 15 years old.
Mm.
And so that was my first experience watching my mother. So I feel like that was part of my mother's legacy, to
Yes.
show me what it
Yeah.
was to care for somebody older. It was my experience that I think left such an indelible, mark on my mind and my heart, that took me back to that place when
Yeah.
I became a professional speech pathologist. And now, I stepped out of that because I realized how important this is on a grander scale.
Right. Yes. I mean, with everything from our past is only seeding for the future, and it will grow when it needs to grow.
Correct.
And, the thing is, a lot of people are buying homes, converting the basement into, the parents' home or the grandparents' home, which is great. And of course, today you've got these watches that can monitor blood pressure, can monitor this and that. They can
Right.
send messages back to the people that are in charge, so what's going on, if they've passed out. This is where we need neighbors to have keys that you trust.
Right.
Granddad, grandma's fallen. Can you go over and help? We have to understand that. The medical system in America has to change. I went to go and get a travel insurance the other day, and I used to get one that was worldwide. And then she gave me a price for one and go, wow, it's really gone expensive. And if you want to go to the States, it's this. And it's what? Because
Right.
medical insurance to go to the States now you are in dire straits right now with your
Absolutely.
medical system. And this does not help at all the care of any elderly, because how many can't afford the medicine, right? They certainly can't afford any care. They don't want to be a burden on their kids, because the kids are already maybe paying off student loans forever, or got their own kids and have got a mortgage. The government, which you're not going to get on your current one, it has to say, okay, if we don't invest in the people, if we don't make it easier for the people to be creative and productive, we're not going to have a population to support anything else.
Absolutely.
So it has to change.
Absolutely. And what do? They talk about cutting Medicare. It's all about cutting and saving money. And so then how
somebody
are
getting fatter?
Right. So who's going to care for these people? How are they going to be cared for these? How are we going to care for these people? How are we going to care for ourselves? If you're doing this now, what are you going to do when there are, over 100 million people that need to care at that point?
Right.
So, as you say, don't, you never know when you're going to be in that situation. I think I read something that said, was it 500,000 teenagers and young children help care for an older person in their home?
Mm-hmm.
Because that person, like you say, has moved into their home, and then everybody is kind of part of that. It becomes a team effort. Right. And I think you touched on something very important. We have to think of it as, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
That we should think about this in terms of, let's all think about, being responsible for the neighbor next door. If you hear somebody fall, if you haven't seen them for a few days, start to become aware of that and be concerned about that. Because, it sounds like a selfish thing to say, but I'm 66, and last year I had some elective surgery. And to tell you the truth, I bought one of those. The doctor wasn't so happy about me being here by myself the first few days, and I bought one of those alert systems and kept it by my bed. In the event I needed help, because I'm here by myself.
Right. And I understand. I'm one of those as well. And, but going back to the old Golden Girls thing, never mind the fact that it'd be fun, but we know how much money it can take to go into a nursing home. How about family, people who've grown up with their friends and their community, it's getting to that stage. How about combining a house together with that money instead, and having somebody, affording the care to come in, maybe people to cook, to clean, if there's any medical thing there, support one another, and in the neighborhood of the families, so the families can still keep an eye on them, still, participate, but, one another is keeping each other young, you're looking after each other, we're at that stage where things starts going physically wrong, or, just challenging. And so I know that, as I said, down the road, I've got a few challenges already that I know that in certain areas of my life, I'm going to be a little challenged and will need help. That doesn't mean throw me out with the bathwater, or that's it, you've had your time. It just means there's certain parts of the body that aren't going to be working as well as other parts. And so we've talked a lot about dementia and losing memory, but let's talk about the losing body, losing
Correct.
functionality. And so what
Right.
we have scooters, right? We
Right,
have
exactly.
other things to get around. So these are just obstacles, not for you to bury your head in the sand over or deny. It's like, if it's there, use it, right? And get
Right.
out there and live.
And, I mean, you could be in your house. I mean, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to climb up on a step ladder to get something from a cabinet on the top shelf. But there are reachers,
Yes.
there are all kinds of things. I tell people, you talked about designing a home. I interviewed somebody a while back who's an architect, and he helps design and modify homes for older people and people who have, different kinds of physical needs. And, I was asking him, or mentioning, people I bet don't think about some of these things.
No.
Your microwave is above your stove,
right.
And here you have your parent or whomever it is, and they have a walker. And so how are they going to hold the walker, open the door, take out the hot plate, and keep their balance? So maybe they choose not to eat instead.
Right.
But maybe you need to think about making some modifications in your home so that they have more access in a way that's safe and comfortable.
I broke my ankle a few years ago, and I can't use what I call the chopsticks, the crutches. Right. And so I had a walker. The difficulty was I would go to the kitchen, make something. How do I bring it back? Right. So I had to put things, in a thermos, and I had things in a Tupperware thing because I didn't want to spill it, and I had to bring it out in a bag. So somebody coming up with an innovative way where you can actually transfer your food to something with a walker. Right. I mean, the thing is, there's so much innovation opportunity here, right?
Correct.
So here is a problem. What are we going to do about it?
Right.
And that's the thing. It's not about, hands up in the air and forget about it.
Correct.
It's what are we going to do about it? There's another system going on, I think it's in Europe, which I think is excellent. We know that it's so hard for students to get, afford housing today. So what they're doing is younger people are moving in with the mature people, and and instead of paying rent, are helping out.
Oh, right? That's terrific.
And I think that's a brilliant idea. That's one expense off them while they're studying, and then they're there to help out with food, with chores, with companionship. And this person is giving that person a chance, at their education without so much burden. So yes, I think there's so many solutions. We've just got to be open-minded to them.
Absolutely. And that brings into that important aspect of intergenerational and having respect for older people and understanding their wisdom, and for the older person to be around the younger person that's more vital and has more vitality and energy and spirit. And it's actually can be a wonderful combination. It's actually a very creative solution.
Yes. And I say you're not going to be able to avoid potholes along the way, but you don't have to fall into the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
If you've somebody before you's gone through the Grand Canyon, they can tell you where to step, right? Now,
absolutely.
Or how to get back up again when you fall, because we've done it. And that's what we do now, is to help you avoid it, so that you don't have to go through the years of the struggle. You can get to where you need to go faster in life without having to try and learn the skills and the tools in order to manage what the trials and tribulations of life are going to be. But we have certain cultures that look at the elderly with reverence, with gratitude, with respect. And in North America, we're not seeing that, and that needs to come back. You too will be old one day, if you're lucky.
Yes.
Right? If you're lucky. What are you doing to prepare for it? And the way you treat the elderly and the more mature today, is it going to be a reflection on how people treat you?
And absolutely. Absolutely. And I lost my, I lost my train of thought.
We're having a senior moment. And that's okay. Don't be impatient with us. We'll get back to our thoughts.
Right. Absolutely. But it's very, it's the words we choose. It's it's the verbiage we use. It's like you say, our attitudes. What does over the hill mean? What does declining years mean?
Yeah.
I say, it's not really declining years, it's advancing years. So I know
Yes.
what I was going to say, and it's almost a contradiction in terms. When you said, oh, hopefully we'll get there. We actually exalt longevity, and we mourn when someone passes prematurely. But then when the person reaches the years of longevity, then we all have a different attitude about it. It's almost
Right.
like an oxymoron,
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so, I say, there's no declining years. It's a misnomer. You're advancing years.
Yes.
You're continuing life's journey. That we have, when we think of a senior in college or in high school, that's an accomplishment. Why, when you become a senior and you've reached those advanced years, that should be an accomplishment. That should
Yes.
be something to be exalted.
You've been building your library.
Correct. Absolutely.
All that wisdom, and it really doesn't matter from what walk of life you come from. You've got the stories to share, and it has
Correct.
been since the beginning of time. Stories passed down.
Correct.
It's the wisdom that helps people on their journey of life. It's the reason I do what I do.
Right.
These stories passed down will help somebody else on their journey of life. It's no different, just a different way of doing it. Take the time to listen. And I think the other big word is stop being so impatient with a mature person, because they're not speaking 10 sounds a minute and they're not busy texting. Please put your phone down.
Yes, I agree with you 5,000%. My kids, if I ask them a question that has to do with anything technological, it becomes a big issue.
Yes.
Oh, you don't know anything or whatever. I say, really? I mean, just because I don't, I didn't grasp this is, quickly enough for you, or I didn't know that nuance of how this program worked. Really? That's what you're going to say?
Yes, exactly.
I don't really think so. My
Where do
daughter,
computers come from?
Yeah. My daughter, I think she has children. I think she's starting to see that a little bit, because she's 39, so she's obviously experienced things her little children will never know about, whether it's rotary phone, beeper, whatever it is.
Yes, you see that on Facebook. They gave a kid a rotary phone or a fax machine. What is this, alien apparatus? And let us not forget the computer stemmed from, I can't remember the poor gentleman who was persecuted because he was gay, but it came about in the First World War. And television opened up. It was designed for the war. That opened up the whole apparatus. You look at Jobs, was not a very nice person, but look what he did for computers, and
Absolutely.
And you think about computers 40 years ago used to be the size of a city block, a room.
Yes, absolutely.
And now all of that intelligence is on your wrist in a watch. And
isn't it incredible?
And in a lot of ways, technology has leaps and bounds, and instead of it advancing us, it's imprisonating us. And so
yes.
And I think having a conversation with somebody of mature age, of the deducement of how things grow, we've got to understand, I don't care how fast your technology is, you can't make those seeds grow any faster than what they're meant.
Correct. I agree. This has really been wonderful. I really appreciate this whole conversation, sharing all of these ideas with you. It's just been terrific.
In other words, don't write us off. We ain't going anywhere yet, but do prepare. Do your research.
Yes.
So how did they get your book and how did they reach you if they've got questions they need to ask? Because obviously you're in the States, but the common knowledge that you have in there will apply anywhere in the world.
Absolutely. So my book, I actually have two books on Amazon. The first one is From Nursing Homes to Rehabilitation Centers, What Every Person Needs to Know. That one got a little technical and academic, I have to admit. So the latest book, which came out in early February, is Overdue Quality Care for Our Elder Citizens. It's a shorter book. It's more readable. It's more, reader friendly. And it's on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. And then my website, www.voiceforeldercare.com, or people can email me at Phyllis, Phyllis, @voiceforeldercare.com.
Excellent. So voice for elder care. I like that because we need a voice. We need the advocates. We need people to understand. You know, it's I refer to this all the time. The forest doesn't judge which tree is standing next to it, right?
That's
Um,
true.
and the forest is as strong and able to weather centuries and centuries and centuries of weather because of the matrix, because of the fiber optics that entwine with each other, feeding, nourishing, and supporting one another. Even when a tree goes down, out of it comes life. We need to
Correct.
start looking at ourselves as the forest. It doesn't matter if we're a youngling or if we're 1,000 years old. You can see there's a tree picture behind me of a very, very old
Right.
tree.
I see that.
And we have to look at that tree with respect of what it's weathered through the time to still be
Absolutely.
standing. So let's look at ourselves as the forest, whether young or old, no matter what species we are, and look at that we're in this together, and look at how we can merge together in order to create and make this forest stronger for all time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
And I want to have you back with Dan Perkins, where we do talk about the caregivers and how not to burn out, because you do have that other side of things, and also preparing for dementia, because that is a huge one, which I know you do have in your book, but let's focus in on it a little more.
Oh, I'd love to. That would be perfect. I look forward to it.
So, I mean, take a look at us, folks. Does it look like we're ready to go out to pasture? No.
Not by a long shot. Not at all.
65 and 66, and we're just, hey, we're at new
Getting
chapters
started.
in our life. So,
Right.
it's, and we're open for business. We're open with the wisdom and the knowledge and the support. And you don't have to do things alone, but please, you do have to be proactive in your own life and the life of your loved ones. Don't wait to the last moment. Preparation is key. Knowledge is powerful, and it helps you make the right decisions. So please reach out to Phyllis. This is her forte. She knows what she's talking about. You've got questions no matter where you are in the world, and it gives you the tools to do your own investigation for what's best for your family or for yourself in the future. You could be our age right now and you haven't got family members, and you go, hey, I need to ask these questions to prepare things for me in the future. So whoever it's for, preparation is key. Phyllis has got the key to help you unlock that. So thanks so much, Phyllis.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This has just been fantastic.
Wonderful. And until next time, folks, remember, we are what we are when we're willing to take the journey in life and embrace our awesomeness, because that's what we're here to do. Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show and were inspired. Come and visit us at selfdiscoverymedia.com and see what other shows we have for you. And please do visit our selfdiscoverycommunity.org and see how you can be a part of giving back. Thank you very much.